Back Look Cinema, the podcast.
Now let me get this straight. That means you lied about your age to make yourself older. But why would any woman want to do that?
I changed it so I could get married.
And the truth shall set you free. My client lied about her age. She was only 17 when she got married, which makes her a minor. And in the great state of California, no minor can enter into any legal contract without parental consent, including
prenuptial agreements.
Prenuptial agreements. This contract is void. The fact that my client has been written more than Seattle Slew is irrelevant. Standard community property applies and she is entitled to half the marital assets or $11.395 million. Jordan fades back. Swoosh. And that's the game. Nothing further, Your Honor. Hi, my name is Zoe. It's spelled Z-O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the U.S. Welcome back. This is the 164th episode of Backlook Cinema, the podcast. We take a look back at the movies of yesteryear, especially the movies of the latter half of the last millennium. Hello, friends. I'm glad you're here. If you like what you're about to hear, then tell your family, tell your friends, and tell your favorite divorce lawyer about this show. Because remember, they're fighting for you. Now, just a quick note, in this intro, I use an AI voice changer to kind of enhance the performance. And the voice changer that I use is called voice.ai. This is not a promotion. I'm just offering a disclosure. It's a free online tool, so you can check that out. This is Liar Liar. It was one of my favorite films growing up. And this film features Jim Carrey, and he's one of my favorite comedic actors. I think I've watched the majority of his comedic films, and it's always a delight to see him on film. And well, at least when he's really focused on comedy. Regretfully, I have not yet seen any of the Sonic movies, but it's funny because in the latter years of his life, he's mostly retired from acting, but he will return for a Sonic movie, which I find intriguing. Of course, Jim Carrey got his start on In Living Color, and I think that I became aware of him back then, and I started watching In Living Color from the first episode and was thoroughly entertained and impressed by him from those early years. And also there's a movie that I like called Once Bitten. I'll probably mention that again later on in the show. And that further, I think that was the first movie that I saw him in, and I really enjoyed him in that movie. So yeah, I can't wait to get it to talk about Jim Carrey and everything that has to do with this movie. And also, I think I can't remember if I saw this movie in the theaters or if I saw it at home. I'm pretty sure I saw it in the theaters because I tried to catch the Jim Carrey movies in the theater. So I can't remember anything further than that. I hadn't seen this movie in a long time. I was worried if I watched this movie, if the jokes were going to be funny or if the jokes were going to age. Because, there are some jokes or even some situations that don't age well. It's like we can become more aware that there are other people in the world that we have to, show consideration for. You just can't go around insulting whole groups of people as if they don't exist or as if their existence is somehow invalidated. So that was one of my worries going into this movie in this rewatch. I don't know how many times I watched it. I don't think I watched it all that often. I may have only seen it like twice before this particular rewatch. And maybe I've seen this movie a grand total of 3 times. And to tell you the truth, I am pleased with what I found. So let's go on to the opening credits and talk about Liar Liar. Fletcher Reede is a rising star at his large and prestigious LA law firm with aspirations of elevating to great heights within the company. But the work he puts in to win his cases has been to the detriment to his son in the custody of his ex-wife. Being a great lawyer and working long hours means that Fletcher lies a lot, and his son, Max, pays with heartache and pain with every missed meetup or any opportunity to see his dad. Fletcher misses Max's 5th birthday and lies to cover up why he couldn't make it. Max, once again heartbroken, makes his birthday wish. Max wished that for one day his dad would be unable to tell a lie. Max's wish comes true. Liar Liar was released March 21st, 1997, produced by Universal Pictures and Imagine Entertainment, grossed over $181 million in the US and Canada and over $302 million worldwide on a reported budget of $45 million. This, in the most technical of terms, can be referred to as a monster hit. If we adjust it for today's dollars, then 181 million translates to 355 million in the US and Canada, and 302 million translates to $593 in today's dollars. That's what it would have grossed had it come out this year. And then the budget at 45 million translates to 88 million. So yeah, it did really well. And the interesting thing about it is that I guess even back then, when you have a successful movie, you're eager to do a sequel of some sort. But this movie has no sequel. It was just a monster hit, and they went on to other projects. So that is it's not super uncommon for a blockbuster to just have like the one movie and not have like a bunch of sequels or not start a franchise. So this movie stars Jim Carrey as Fletcher Reede. You may have seen him in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Mask, Bruce Almighty, or Once Bitten that I mentioned before. And the reason I put that in is that Once Bitten was a movie that I had wanted to cover, but remember I talked a little bit about problematic jokes, and I am admitting now that one of my favorite jokes in that movie is a problematic joke. So I want to do it, but also at the same time, I'm a little bit concerned about. It's kind of like Revenge of the Nerds. Revenge of the Nerds is one of my favorite movies, but at least it was growing up. But it also has problematic situations. They have problematic jokes and situations and problematic scenarios. So it's like it's not going to fly. Like if you did that movie today, the way it was done back I think in the 80s or 90s or whenever that came out, the nerds would be the bad guys. The nerds would be there, because people say all the time, but that movie couldn't be made today. Well, of course, problematic movies from the past can be made today, but the reference would change, and the people that you thought were the good guys would turn out to be the bad guys, or they would turn out to be unsympathetic, and you would have to treat them as such. So the meaning of the movie would change significantly. Anyway, up next is Moira Tierney. She played Audrey Reed, and that's Fletcher's wife, and she can be seen in Insomnia, Beautiful Boy, or Twisters. Just recently, she was in Twisters. Amanda Donahoe, she plays Miranda, and you may have seen her in The Lair of the White Worm, or The Madness of King George from 1994, or Trafficker. Jennifer Tilly played Samantha Cole. You may have seen her in Bound, or Bride of Chucky, or Bullets Over Broadway. I've always liked Jennifer Tilly. You may know her also as a voice actress. And the funny thing is that I think I've heard her voice more than I have actually seen her in roles. And when I saw Jennifer Tilly, one of the things I was thinking is that, oh yeah, Jennifer Tilly. Up next is Justin Cooper. He plays Max Reed. And Liar Liar is the only theatrical release that he's been in. He's also been in a direct-to-video sequel to Dennis the Menace called Dennis the Menace Strikes Again. And a lot of his credits are on TV, including The Boys Are Back and Brother's Keeper. But he has not had, he has not maintained his career in acting. Up next is Cary Elwes. Did I say that right? This is the first time that I'm kind of saying his name out loud, and I know I'm gonna get crapped on for mispronouncing his name because this is a most prestigious actor. So Cary Elwes plays Jerry. You may have seen him in Saw, but his most famous role was in The Princess Bride, and also Robin Hood, Men in Tights. Jason Bernard played Judge Marshall Stevens. You may have seen him in While You Were Sleeping, War Games, or No Way Out. Incidentally, Liar Liar is dedicated to Jason Bernard, who played his last role in this film and shortly after he died of a heart attack in 1997. Anne Haney played Greta. You may have seen her in Mrs. Doubtfire or Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. And Swoosie Kurtz played Dana Appleton. She's also been in Wildcats and Rules of Attraction. Directed by Tom Shadyac. Editor's note. Hopefully I pronounced that name correctly. And the movies that he also directed were a bunch of comedy bangers and some of my favorite movies. And some of these include The Nutty Professor, Bruce Almighty, Patch Adams, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Evan Almighty, and Brian Banks. So one of these movies is not like the other. First, I want to say that I had not seen Patch Adams or Evan Almighty, but I hear that they're good movies. And Brian Banks is not actually a comedy banger. It is a very serious drama, and it's his latest film that I think it was released in the last couple of years. This movie was written by Paul Goy and Stephen Mazur. Goy is really only credited with co-writing Liar Liar and Heartbreakers. He helped come up with the concept of Liar Liar, and there's a story about how he sold it to the studio. He met with one of the studio heads who, before, like, all Paul Goy said was, okay, I've got this movie about lying, and the producer says, I like it, we'll buy it, right? And it's like and it seems like it was the easiest sell ever. And this is when the concept of the movie was rejected like several times by several studios already. It was a producer at Imagine Entertainment, or a studio head of Imagine Entertainment, who greenlit the movie based on the fact that Goy and his co-writer was making a movie about lying. And the co-writer is Mazur, and he's also credited with writing The Little Rascals from 1994. Heartbreakers he wrote with Goy. Beachwarmers 2, Breaking Balls, and Woody Woodpecker Goes to Camp. The music is by Don Debney, and he's also written some fantastic music for The Jungle Book, The Greatest Showman, The Passion of the Christ, Iron Man 2, and the Garfield movie. The music in this movie, I just want to say it was like a Christmassy tone to it. It felt very light and endearing, and I don't think anybody considers this a Christmas movie, but it feels like it has a Christmas soundtrack. And I listened to the soundtrack as I was making these notes, and I was like, yeah, this could easily fit into a Christmas movie. And I think, yeah, it's surrounded around Max's birthday. It's not surrounded around Christmas. And I think even there's like a follow up for like the next year. Like at the end of the movie, they follow up with the family in the next year on Max's next birthday. So I don't think it ever touches Christmas, but the music that John Debney did, it sounds like it would be at home in a Christmas movie. So that's it for the opening credits. And I don't have any new announcements other than even though I've had plenty of time, still hadn't gotten around to setting up the eBay shop, but I will soon. Also working on new designs for backlinkcinema.com/shop. So check that out. New designs will be there soon. And now let's go over to our favorite parts. So briefly, I was thinking about the themes of this movie, and obviously this movie is about lying. So it's a movie about the pitfalls of lying, and there are interesting takes on lying. Like in the one place, you lie to people so as to not insult them. You lie to people to be polite. Like when your wife or your husband or your significant other, when they ask you, does this dress make me fat? Right. You don't say, yeah, it makes you fat. Right. It's you kind of have to lie and say, no, you look great, you look fine, or whatever. And we tell ourselves lies in order to look at the positive aspects of life. Like sometimes either yourself or your friends or your family, they may be going through some tough times. And sometimes you got to lie to them to get them through those times, right? And so these are the type of lies that the main character tells all the time. And then the other thing is that, I think what this movie really is about is that when you're being irresponsible and you're covering up your irresponsibility with your lies, and you're always irresponsible, and so you're constantly lying. So that's one thing. And one of the things I'm probably going to touch on when I really get into the meat and potatoes of my favorite parts, or maybe I'll just say it right here. One of my favorite parts is at the very beginning of the movie. It's Max, and he's in his classroom. Max is 4 going on 5. And the teacher asks him, it's career day. And she's asking Max what his father does for a living. And he says, my father is a liar. And she says, what do you mean? What do you mean he's a liar? And he says, well, he goes to court and he talks to people in court. And the teacher says, oh, that's a lawyer. And Max just kind of shrugs his shoulders, because to him it's like, yeah, same thing. A liar, a lawyer. I don't think I said anything wrong here. And the other thing is that the reason that Max identifies his father as a liar is that Max's father lies to him all the time. It's constant and unrelenting. So that's obviously one of the main themes of the movie. The other is, the priorities of work-life balance. And it touches on this because the reason that Fletcher lies to Max all the time is that Fletcher, even though he loves Max and he wants to spend time with Max, you can see the chemistry between Jim Carrey and the young Justin Cooper. And you can see it translates well to the film. It looks like genuine love between a father and his son. So he wants to spend time with his family, but at the same time, even though it's his ex-family, it's really his ex-wife, and his ex-wife has the custody of his son. And so he has to visit his son. Apparently there's no limit on the visitation or anything like that. They don't have to exchange his son. They don't have like joint custody, I don't think. Well, they have joint custody, but it's not like I don't think like you got to meet at a 7-Eleven to exchange the child. It's like he has a very good relationship with his ex-wife, and he loves his child, but he also loves his work, and he's an up and coming. He's ambitious. He wants to rise in the ranks of his law firm. And so he takes on difficult cases. He works long hours, and his schedule is not set. So there are times when he'll set appointment dates, important dates with his family, and he'll miss those dates because he allowed his work to take priority over his life with his family. So that is what causes him to lie so many times and so much and so consistently that his son, when asked what his father does, says, "Oh, my father is a liar." So, and it's like Fletcher thinks that his son is buying all of his BS, but his son is not buying any of the BS, because the most important thing for a child is the time that you spend with them, and not the excuses that you give when you say you're going to do something and you don't do it. So I think this movie really illustrates it, and they don't really like say it out loud. They just show you in the story of the movie, because it's like nobody preaches about work-life balance within the movie. You just kind of recognize that as you watch the movie. You're watching the movie and thinking, well, if this dude just didn't take this case, he didn't have to break the appointment with his son. Or if this dude would kind of just like lighten up on this workload, then he could spend more time with his son, because that's what he wants to do. Right. You're almost frustrated with Fletcher because he doesn't do what is obvious. And I like that they're able to present the theme of the movie, or they present the overarching message of this movie without actually preaching it to you. So I mentioned my first favorite part where Max says, "My dad's a liar." My next favorite part is where it's kind of like a whole bunch of, it's a great swath of a couple of scenes, but the main idea is that Fletcher makes a promises to Max. He's going to be there for Max's birthday. It's Max's 5th birthday. This is a milestone for a child. The 5th birthday usually means that that's when you enter into kindergarten. But I think Max is already in kindergarten. His birthday comes at that weird time of year. But it always feels like a big deal when you turn 5 years old. You almost feel like you're grown at 5. I think what's great about 5 is that you start, your memories are harder now. You start to remember more at 5, from 5. And forget less. I don't know if I remember anything from when I was 5. I do remember some things. When I was in kindergarten, I had a teacher named Mrs. Wright, and I thought that was a weird name. I could not get past the name, the fact that my teacher's name was Mrs. Wright. And it didn't know how to spell, so I was thinking that Wright was R-I-G-H-T. Not W-R-I-G-H-T, which is probably her name, but I didn't know. I also remember painting stuff with green paint, and there are a few other memories. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that I don't think I remember anything from earlier than that. So these are very important times, and the father, Fletcher, misses this. Like he says he's going to do it, and when he's not there, like Max's mom has a boyfriend, and the boyfriend is there, and Max doesn't hate his mom's boyfriend, but it's not his dad. So he thinks his mom's boyfriend is a cool guy and he's totally chill with it, but her boyfriend is not his dad, and is not going to be a replacement for his dad, at least not right now. And so his friends are there. All of his friends are there. The parents of the friends are there, but his father isn't there, and he is down, right? So meanwhile, his father has been tapped by his supervisor to take a new case. His supervisor, played by Amanda Donohoe. Is it Donohoe? Donahue. Amanda Donahue. And she plays, it's funny because I just said it earlier. She plays Miranda. Miranda is his direct supervisor. And she offers him this huge case, and he doesn't want to turn it down because he knows that this case will elevate him in the company. And then to celebrate, she has sex with Fletcher. And in the midst of her clawing on top of Fletcher and tearing off both of their clothes, Fletcher realizes that he forgot that his son's birthday party was taking place. So he calls home on her telephone to talk to Fletcher and tells him that has to work late. Max knows this is a lie, and he doesn't know what the real reason is that his father is, ditching out on him. But he is really down. He's super down. It's like his mom and his mom's boyfriend, that's Jerry, they're trying to console him, but it's very hard. And it is this low point at his birthday party that he makes the wish that his father wouldn't be able to lie for a whole day. And that's one of my favorite parts. It's the parts leading up to it, and then the final part. And I think what draws me to this part, why it's so good, is because even though Justin Cooper is very young and he has not had a whole bunch of movies, he's very good in this movie. It's like you can, his emotions transfer very well. And I really like that. And so he, in the parts of the movies that he's asked to carry, he carries it very well. And so you feel that disappointment and that hurt in a 5-year-old child whose father can't be there for his birthday party, even though his father said he would be there. So that's one of the things that I really liked about it. I think they really sent that message really well. And he made the wish. They didn't tell you how the wish worked or anything like that, because it's like they tell you in the trailers what this movie is about. So you go in, they give you exactly what you expected from the trailer. So because the premise of the movie is, what if you couldn't lie, right? and so that was awesome. And so that follows up with Fletcher, like I guess this is like really throughout the whole movie. This is Fletcher not being able to tell the truth, or Jim Carrey being forced to tell the truth when he instinctively lies. So it's like every time he wants to throw out a casual white lie, he instinctively and automatically and against his will tells the truth. And the way he looks when he's telling the truth against his will is magnificent. It's like it's a work of art. It's like the way he contorts his face to try to tell the truth but can't, and just blurts out, well, where he tries to lie and he can't tell, and he's forced to tell the truth, and he just blurts out the truth. It's pretty awesome. So when he wakes up with Miranda, he blurts out, like she asks him, like this is the next morning, this is after their night of sex, and she asked him, was it good for you, or how did you like it, or something like that. And he says, I've had better. And he didn't realize that he had said it because he's just waking up, and he blurts out the truth. And then she gets upset. She kicks them. They're actually, I think they're in her office, and she has a bed in her office. Either that or they're in her apartment. I can't. The memory's fuzzy already. If I feel like they're at the office and she has a bed in her office and she kicks him out of her office. I'm gonna go with that. I can't remember. Anyways, she kicks him out because she's mad because she says that because he has said that she's a bad lover, and then, throughout the day, when I guess when he goes to work later that morning. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking maybe they were at her house. Anyways, when he goes to the office later that morning, people are casually greeting, and we've seen the scene before, the way he normally greets people. Like the guy says, how you doing, Fletcher? And Fletcher says, oh, you, and it's like a really obese dude. And he says, how you doing, Fletcher? And Fletcher says, oh, you look like you're losing weight. He's lying to the dude because he wants the dude to feel good. And then somebody else says something. It's like somebody waves and Fletcher doesn't remember this guy's name. And he kind of feigns that he remembers the guy's name. But greeting him, smiling, is like, how you doing? And then there's a third guy and he has an enormous zit on his nose, and Fletcher tries to ignore the zit and, but gives him a friendly greeting. But then when you play the scene again, this is the next day. This is after he can't lie to people. He can't tell white lies. He can't make people feel good or coddle people's feelings, or he's forced to tell them the truth. And he's brutal with the truth. So when the obese guy greets Fletcher, asks, good morning, how you doing? Fletcher was basically told the guy that he was fat or something like that. And then when the other guy, whose name Fletcher couldn't remember, when he greets Fletcher, Fletcher tells him that you're not important enough for me to remember your name. And the guy with the zit, he basically snatches the paper and trying to hide his face so that he doesn't have to look at the guy with the large zit. So he's going through, and at first he doesn't realize what's happening, and then he realizes that he can't lie. And then one of the things, this huge scene, did I write it down as one of my favorite parts? No, I don't think I did. So there's a huge scene. I'm not saying this is part of him trying not to lie. So one of the things he's doing is that he's testing himself on whether or not he can write down a lie. Because he's like, I can't tell a lie, but can I write down a lie? So he's trying to, he has a pen, it's a blue pen, and he wants to write that the pen is red. So he's trying to write, this is a red pen, or this pen is red. He's trying to write that on a piece of paper. And when he gets to where he's supposed to write the color, his hand is like not cooperating. He's trying to force his hand to write something, and his hand won't write it. And then his hand just keeps writing blue. Every time he tries to write, this pen is red, his hand writes, this pen is blue. And here's the thing. What happens is that he can't look at the pen and say that this pen is red. He has to hide the pen from his eyes and turn his head, and he says the pen is red. But then when he tries to write it down, he can't say it. He can't write it. He can't look at it and say that it's red, and he can't write it and write the word red. It writes blue. And then he actually gets into a fight with his hands. And when he gets into a fight with his hands, his hand turns the pen towards his face, and now it's like his hand is possessed. And then he falls behind a desk, and then the next time you see him, he rises from behind his desk, and all over his face is the word written blue. The word blue is written all over his face. It's almost like his hand had turned against him and had become rebellious, because Fletcher's trying to lie, and the pen won't, or his hand won't allow him to lie. The other thing about this is that I'm just now realizing this now, is that Fletcher plays a game with his son Max, and Fletcher pretends that, like, when they're together, and Max might ask him a question, and Fletcher would start saying, I don't know, my hands are kind of itchy. My hands are itchy. Oh no, it's the claw. And he pretends that his hand is like, has gone rogue, and it's become a claw-like animation. And his hand is involuntarily starts to tickle his son Max, right? It's a game that they play. And, he chases Max around with the claw animation, or you're pretending that his hand is like a claw creature or whatever. But we see the real life manifestation of that when his hand goes rogue and starts writing blue all over his face. The claw had become real. And I just now realized that that's a thing that had happened in this movie. So, another one of my favorite things is like just Jim Carrey's acting. And one of the things not his, like, the acting, like, the normal part where he's just delivering lines. I'm talking about the physical comedy that he's doing. I'm talking about his incredible facial expressions. And this is particularly, like I mentioned earlier, when he's trying to tell the truth, but he's trying to lie. He's trying to lie, but he can't lie. And he blurts out the truth. The facial contortions are fantastic. And the other thing is the physical comedy where he throws himself around a lot in this movie. It's amazing. There's one point where he runs into walls, like somebody will startle him and he'll run into a wall and fall to the floor or something like that. He does that a lot in this movie. There are some of the pratfalls are real life pratfalls where he tripped accidentally, but they left it in the film. And a lot of it is like when he has to fight with the pen and the way he throws himself around the office as he's fighting with his hand, trying to get it to write red and the hand would only write blue. That physical comedy where he's throwing himself around the office is incredible and hilarious. And then there was a part where there's a scene in the movie where he's in court and he's in the bathroom in the court because he had asked the judge for a recess so that he could go to the bathroom. And because he's in trouble with his examination because he can't lie. He can't ask a question that he knows the answer will be a lie. He can't do that either. And so what he wants to do is he wants to incapacitate himself so that he doesn't have to, so he can get some kind of continuance. By this time he knows that the wish only lasts for 24 hours. So he can come back the next day and run the defense for his client that he meant to, which included a bunch of lies. But the case is on a day where he's forced to tell the truth. He can't run the defense that he had meant to run. And he doesn't know how to win this case without lying. And so he's trying to make the judge create a situation where the judge will offer recess until the next day where he can lie. So this leads me back to him being in the bathroom. And he throws himself around in this bathroom, and it's absolutely incredible. And it's like and it's cringy. It's cringe inducing. It's almost like watching Saw when in the movie Saw, the participants had to injure themselves, but in the most gruesome manner. And while in Liar Liar, the manner is not so gruesome. It's not as gruesome as Saw. There aren't people cutting their eyes out. It is Jim Carrey beating the hell out of himself. He puts his head in a commode and he slams a commode lid on his head. He slams himself against the wall. He beats his head against the sink. He's going through all of this. He's trying to injure himself so that he would look like he got jumped in the bathroom. And so he does this. And so the movie has a break in continuity, so to speak, or it breaks his own rules just a little bit, because when after he beats himself up, he is brought to the courtroom by the bailiffs, and the judge sees all the bruises and cuts on Fletcher and his face, and his suit is torn, and the judge asks, "What's happened? What happened to you? Who did this to you?" And so the way the movie works is that Fletcher is supposed to say, "I did this to myself." But what he does is that he's able to influence the truth, and he says, "a desperate man." So, but the problem with this, or the problem that I have with this, is that his purpose is to lead the judge into thinking that somebody beat him up. So he's answering the question in a way that he knows it's a lie. That's the little break in continuity. It's a tiny little thing that happens in this movie. And it probably wasn't necessary, because what happens is that the judge says, "Well, in light of the circumstances, I am going to have to grant a recess until tomorrow and make sure you go to the hospital and get yourself checked up and we can continue tomorrow." unless you feel like you can continue today. And so here's the thing. If he beats himself up and he just told the truth that he beat himself up, then the judge would probably say, "Well, I'm sorry that you beat yourself up, but we're going to have to continue this case. You know, I'm not going to grant you a recess." But instead they do this kind of song and dance where Fletcher says a desperate man had beat him up, and the judge offers to have a continuance to the next day, which is what Fletcher wants because Fletcher can lie the next day. But then the judge says, unless you can continue today. And Fletcher, there aren't any answers that Fletcher can give that can obscure the truth. So in this, he says, yes. He said, the judge asks him, can you continue today? And he answers yes. And he says, well, good, we'll continue. And I commend you on your bravery in this circumstance, or something of that nature. So, the long and short of it is that the scheme fails. He tries to beat himself up to get himself from not continuing the case. And he fails to, and the judge, and that scheme fails. He has to continue with cross-examination, and he tries. So he puts so in this case, the main case, this is the case that he missed his son's birthday party for. So he's handed a case where it's a divorce. So apparently he's a divorce attorney, and in this divorce it involves a very huge client, and their client is the wife of a multimillionaire. He has huge assets, but their client, and that's played by Jennifer Tilly, her name is Samantha Cole. She signed a prenuptial agreement. She actually wants more money. She wants like half of the marital assets, but she's not entitled to half. She's not entitled to any of her husband's money, according to the prenuptial agreement. But the husband, like when they show up in court, the husband offers like a settlement of like $2 million. And Samantha was like, so this is like after Fletcher convinces Samantha that he can get her more money, like he can get her half of his money. Then they show up in court for the preliminary hearing. And in this hearing, the judge he's asking if there's going to be a settlement. The ex-husband, or the husband, offers his wife Samantha a settlement of $2 million. Samantha, at first, Cole was like, yes, we'll take the settlement, right? Because by the time they show up in court for this preliminary hearing, he can't lie. But Samantha turns to him and is like, no, you told me that I can get all the money. I want half. I want what's mine. I'm the victim. I deserve more. And so Fletcher has to back down. He has to say that he can't accept the settlement offer. So they have to continue with the case, with the court case. Fletcher wanted to accept the settlement because he can't lie, because his claims, or the way he was going to defend Samantha, was to her whole thing. He's going to lie about the whole thing. So Samantha and her husband are getting divorced because she was unfaithful. She was cheating on her husband. So her husband wants to get a divorce, but she still thinks that she deserves like half of his money. And Fletcher's just a man to get her half of her husband's money. But his case hinges on him lying about the affair. He's going to try to prove that she didn't have an affair. But the problem is that when he tries to cross-examine, when he tries to question his own witness, he can't ask a question that he knows is a lie. So one of the questions that he wanted to ask was, you never had sex with my client, did you? He wanted to ask that question, but he can't ask it. And so he ends up when he has the alleged sexual partner of Samantha Cole on the stand, the only questions that he can ask only confirm that he was having sex with her. It's like he's like, you had sex with her, didn't you? You rode her like a horse, didn't you? Like, it's, the funny thing about when Fletcher tells the truth is that he's most belligerent with the truth. Like, he can't. It's like he's almost intentionally cruel with telling the truth. So now it seems like the case is sunk because he can't use the strategy that he was going to use before. There's actually even a parts of the questioning where he asks a question that's like close to a question that he knows is a lie, and when he asks it, he objects to his own question. One time he objected to his own question, and he said, "Objection, move to strike." And the judge is looking at him like he's crazy. Everybody is really, but it's really the judge's expression that is like trying to figure out what's going on with Fletcher. Now, fortunately for Fletcher, he is a brilliant lawyer. So as the case goes on, and he's going to put his client on the stand. This is after he beats himself up, and somebody says something, and he looks to his paperwork and he realizes that there is a way to win the case by telling the truth. And the funny thing is that it does involve a lie, but he's not the one that's lying. So what happens is that I kind of alluded to it in the beginning of the episode when I did my little reenactment. So what happens is that when he cross-examines Samantha, or when he examines Samantha, when he questions Samantha, it's not a cross-examination. Anyways, I'm getting my legal terms mixed up. So when he questions Samantha, he finds a copy of her birth certificate, and he gets her to recite everything off her birth certificate to determine that it's true, that the things on her birth certificate are true. And then, but what she's confirming is that, there are certain things that she lied on her birth certificate, or on her driver's license. I'm sorry. It's not her birth certificate. It's her driver's license. So he has a copy of her driver's license. And there are certain things that she lied about on her driver's license. Like, she lied about her hair color and that she's a brunette, not a blonde. She lied about her weight. She's 137, not 103, or whatever she wrote down. And when he asked her how much she weighed, she said 100. I think she said something like 107. And Fletcher says, "In your chest." So, anyways, he's confirming some of the things that she lied about on her driver's license. And the other thing was that he asked about her age. And in a contract, on a marriage contract, because it's not just her driver's license, it's her marriage contract. So he's comparing the information on her driver's license to her marriage contract. On her marriage contract, she wrote that she was born 1 year, but on her driver's license, it has her age as, or her birth certificate. I get confused with documents he used. I think it's probably her birth certificate. It shows that she was born in a different year, and it shows that she was actually younger on her birth certificate than she is on her prenuptial agreement. So she lied about her age to make herself older so that she can get married. The problem with this is that because she was underage when she signed the prenuptial agreement is void because she was a minor, she needed parental consent. She didn't have parental consent. That means the contract was void. And that's how he won the case. So And I forgot the point of me telling that story. But anyway, actually, there's one more favorite part that I want to. Well, it's connected to the way he lies. So there's a part where he gets in. This is early. This is before he realized that he's cursed to tell the truth all the time. So he gets into the elevator, and there's a woman in the elevator, and she's very attractive. She has a very huge chest, and she's like, they have their greetings, like, hi, how are you doing? And she says, everybody's been so nice to me. And he says casually, oh, that's because you got huge knockers. And she looks at him aghast. It's like, how dare you say that? It was like, it's not like they weren't being presented. Like she had like a V-neck suit or whatever. So you can see that she was very well endowed, but it's very rude to like verbally comment on a stranger's attribute like that. And so she's shocked that he would say that openly and out loud. And then he says something about, oh, what I mean is I want to squeeze him. Oh, what I mean is, mama. Right. So and then she slaps him for being so rude and insulting. And because every time he tries to correct himself, he's trying to lie to her, but he can't do it. And the truth that he tells becomes more and more rude, like more crude, more insulting, more cruel. And it's weird that sometimes he can't tell the truth without being cruel about it. And there are lots of moments like that. There's a place, his car gets towed one time, and so he has to go to the impound lot to get his car. So there's a guy at the impound lot, and he wants to threaten the guy as a lawyer, but he can't do it because the truth is that it's not worth his time to try to sue a worker at an impound lot. There's when he gets stopped by the police officer before that, and how he blurts out the truth as to why the police stopped him. So there's a lot of moments like that in the movie that makes it enjoyable. And then the last favorite part is basically the part where Fletcher's wife has had it up to here with Fletcher, or Fletcher's ex-wife has had it up to here with Fletcher, and she got an offer from her boyfriend Jerry to move with him to a different state that's like across the country. And if they move across the country with Max, then Fletcher will hardly ever get to see Max again. Like in this current situation is that Fletcher can see Max pretty much anytime he wants to. The problem is that he's not committed to seeing Max anytime he wants to. So with Jerry, the boyfriend has to move to a new state because that's where his job is taking him. And he's offering Audrey, that's Fletcher's wife, or Fletcher's ex-wife, to move with him with their son Max. And so they're going to be moving away from Fletcher. And so Fletcher has to chase them down. He chases them down at the airport, but they're already on the plane. So he steals some mobile stairs, and he chases down the airplane with the stairs, and he climbs to the top of the stairs while the thing is still rolling. I guess this would be a part of the film that's totally fake. I'm pretty sure that you can't just put the stairs in neutral and climb to the top of the stairs, or whatever he did to climb to the top of the stairs and still drive this stair vehicle. So he drives this stair vehicle to one of the windows, and he sees his son, and he sees his ex-wife and her boyfriend, and he's like waving at them, and they think he's crazy. Obviously, you see the face of your ex-husband in outside of the airplane while the plane is moving. You're going to think that there's something strange. And then he drives to the front of the plane, and then and the pilot is forced to stop the plane because, security risks or whatever. And at some point, Fletcher falls off the stair vehicle and breaks his legs, but his family is together, and she sees the dedication that he is to being with his son. So she decides not to move with her boyfriend across the country. That was a fascinating sequence that I feel like they went all out and trying to end this movie on a kind of exciting, an exciting climax for the way this movie had ended. It's the most bombastic of, I know a lot of comedy movies end this way. This is one of the most bombastic ending or climactic sequences in a comedy movie. So, and so they, you know, she being Audrey decides not to move, and you know, and Fletcher promises to to be more dedicated to being with Max. Like, so he told Max by the time he gets to the plane, the curse of telling the truth has worn off. But he tells Max sincerely that even though the curse is worn off, that he really is being sincere, that he really is telling the truth, and he really will stop making excuses to see Max. And then there's a follow-up in the next year, and they're a happier family, and Fletcher and his ex-wife are kind of making moves to get back together again. And Fletcher is not like permanently disappointed that his father's not showing up to so that they can spend time together. So it was a good movie. It feels, like I said, it with the music and everything, it almost feels like a Christmas movie. It's a great family movie. It's a very funny movie, and it maintains that humor. It's like it has not failed to entertain. It doesn't. What am I trying to say? There are no parts of it where you felt like it didn't age well. It aged perfectly. Most of this movie is still relevant. Yeah, the thing with the airport, obviously, that couldn't happen today, but everything else was fantastic. It was just great, and there wasn't any humor in it that wouldn't work today, I don't think. If you haven't seen Liar Liar, I really encourage you to go see it. If you haven't seen it in a long time, go back and watch it again. It's definitely a great watch. So that's it for our favorite parts, or at least the ones that I liked. What are your favorite parts? What did you like about this movie? Why don't you write and leave a comment, or you can go to backlickcinema.com, or you can go to fanmail at backlickcinema.com and leave a comment there, or follow me in the socials. I'm eager to see what other people thought about Liar Liar. So let's go to the top 10 trivia. What I liked about the trivia that I could find in this movie is that there was so much of it. And not only was there so much of it, but a lot of it had to do with Jim Carrey, because he was doing the most when he made this movie. So if you don't want to hear a lot about Jim Carrey, I want to apologize for having such a huge amount of data on Jim Carrey's involvement in this movie. But that's where the trivia led. So, according to an interview with Jim Carrey, he says that the gag of Fletcher chasing his son as the Claw is something Carrey's father did to him and his siblings. So what I gather from this is that when Jim was growing up, his father had this game they played where he had this claw, his hand turned to a claw. He chased Jim and his brothers around. It must have been awesome growing up. When Fletcher beats himself up in the bathroom, no sound effects were used. Those really were the sounds of Jim Carrey's Hollywood head slamming into the urinal floor, the walls. So he was doing it. He was doing it for real, or at least he was making the noise for real. So I can't imagine how that feels. I don't think I've ever tried to hurt myself on purpose in that way. Jim Carrey declined the role of Dr. Evil in Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery that came out in 1997, so he could be committed to this film. And he also to take a break from having to lose his hair or put on makeup or wear eye contacts for the roles. Yeah, this is one of the few roles where Jim Carrey doesn't wear a whole bunch of makeup and he doesn't have to wear a particular style of hair. He's done that in a lot of movies. Like The Mask was one of those movies where, you know, he basically had to wear a prosthetic mask, and he just wanted to take a break. Or even like something like Ace Ventura, where he had to wear that crazy hairdo. He wanted to do something where he could just wear like regular hair, and that's what appealed to him in the movie Liar Liar. But I would have loved to see him as Dr. Evil. He would have been fantastic. Oh my goodness. Like, the way that movie turned out was great. Like, I really loved it. The way that, I forgot his name already for some reason, but the star of the movie, he played the main character and he played Dr. Evil. And that was great. That was a fantastic decision for him to make. He was excellent at it. And I'd still like to see Jim Carrey as Dr. Evil. I feel like that's something that needs to be seen. But in the end of the day, when you think about it, Austin Powers saved a lot of money not having to hire somebody like Carrey to play Dr. Evil. When Fletcher is having the pen war in his office, he comes up from behind the desk with the word blue written all over his face. On his left jaw, quote, BB King, end quote, is written amongst all the blues. So I didn't notice that. So what happens is that the word blue is like written hundreds of times all over his face. But in one time, he wrote BB King. Like, it's almost like his hand was like, I will write anything, but I will not write red because this pen is not red. In an interview, Carrey said filming this film was very physically demanding on him, quote, because it was this constant suppression of angst, completely freaking out all the time. I would go home with total exhaustion, end quote. I can imagine the way he thrown himself around the room, especially the bathroom scene, the way he's doing his pratfalls all the time, his antics in the courtroom. He is very physically active. And this is like at the height of his goofiness. He's done this in every movie. It's like when you watch a Jim Carrey movie, you're looking for that physical comedy. He's like one of the best people at physical comedy. I think the only person that really comes close is Robin Williams. So just outstanding at his work. And it's like he just worked himself into exhaustion. And that is what I call dedication. Jim Carrey cameos as Fire Marshal Bill, a character he played on In Living Color. During the scene where Fletcher is on the stretcher, Fire Marshal Bill can be seen talking on a walkie-talkie in the crowd. And that was fascinating because I've never noticed this. I've never, ever noticed this. So when I read this in the trivia, I went back. There are actually clips of this. You just look up Liar, Liar, Fire Marshal Bill, something like that on YouTube. And then they'll show the clip and it's like he's prominently displayed. Like he's in the background, but it's not like so far in the corner that you don't see him or you can't tell it's him. It's like when somebody points it out at you, you can't unsee it. It's fascinating. The only thing is that he's just wearing like large aviator sunglasses that kind of cover up most of his face, but he's making the face. He's making the Fire Marshal Bill face. You can't hear his voice. He's talking on a walkie-talkie because he's in a background. They're focusing on the characters in the foreground. They're focusing on Jerry and Audrey, and they're talking to the authorities about what happened, the whole incident. And in the background is Fire Marshal Bill talking in the walkie-talkie, and that is fascinating. I encourage you to go look for that. Steve Martin turned down the lead role in this film due to scheduling conflicts with another film titled Sergeant Bilko that came out in 1996. When Steve Martin was connected to the film, it was quite different in many ways. Martin's version of Fletcher Reede would already be successful in his career, still married, but a bad marriage. And they would have multiple kids. When Jim Carrey was cast in the role, elements were tweaked to better suit his age. Fletcher Reede is up and coming in his career, divorce, and have one child. So that would have been an interesting movie with Steve Martin. I think that he would have made it work. I don't know if he would have been as animated as Carrie, but he does have that quality about him where he's just very active. And one of the samples that you can see this in is The Jerk. He's fascinating in The Jerk, and the way he played the character in The Jerk, I can see him being a character like Fletcher Reede in this movie, Liar Liar. And I did cover The Jerk. You can check that out, and just go to the back episodes and find The Jerk and check that out. It was fun talking about that movie. Fletcher's line, "Rid more than Seattle Slew," is referencing an American thoroughbred racehorse, only the 10th horse of a total of 13 to win the Triple Crown as of September 2021. Seattle Slew achieved the feat in 1977. At the time of the film's release, the horse was still active, but it died in 2002. What's interesting is that I didn't know what Seattle Slew was. When he said that, the context I got about it was maybe this is a famous sex worker or somebody who was famously promiscuous. Like, I thought it was a person, but it's not a person, it's a horse. So now that I know that he's referencing a racehorse, the joke is even funnier. The case that Greta talks about regarding her friend and the burglar is based on the case Bodine versus Enterprise High School, when on March 1st, 1982, around 1 a.m., a former student, Rick Earl Bodine, trespassed onto the school to steal spotlights off the roof. After removing the first one and going for the second one, he fell through the skylight 27 feet, resulting in brain damage, which initially left Bodine mute and quadriplegic. The state declined to prosecute Bodine, viewing that the injuries were more than sufficient punishment. However, Bodine's attorney sued the school district, winning the case for $260,000 up front plus $15,000 per month for the rest of Bodine's life. And that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Apparently, school should have prosecuted. The last bit of trivia I have is that the film was rewritten by Judge Apatow, which went uncredited, which was amazing. I can't think of anything that is particular about Apatow's style that you would recognize it when you watch the movie. But I guess this just goes to show he gets around. He's going to get his. So that's it for the trivia. And now we're going to take a look at what the critics thought. The critics gave it an 83%, and that's on Rotten Tomatoes. They also have an audience score, and the audience score is 73% or 75%. I want to say I'm with the critics on this one, and IMDb Reviews has it at a 6.9 out of 10, which pretty much matches the Rotten Tomatoes audience score. So the first critic we have is Stephen Hunter. He writes for the Baltimore Sun. He wrote, "Carrie, unique among American stars, doesn't need story or writing to delight. He needs only room, and Liar Liar gives him plenty." And I can agree. Although I have to say that I thought this was a very decent story. There was some very decent story elements that came to fruition. I don't know if I'm even using the language correctly. There are story elements that work really well in this movie is what I'm trying to say. And it didn't feel like overly complicated or overly simplistic. The story made sense to me. It was just, I think what happened was that you basically had a good actor, a good comedic actor, a good improv actor, and a very good movie. And it all worked together. Paul Tatara from CNN.com wrote, "I would tell you that this is a loud, obvious one-joke movie, but most of you would run out and pony up the $8 to see it anyway. First, I want to pause and reflect on when movies were only $8. And then I want to say that I think Paul is being self-aware and knowing that people enjoy humor like this. He didn't particularly enjoy it, but he knows that there are people who like this type of humor. He knows that there are people who like Jim Carrey. So I'm glad he's being self-aware. Rita Kempley from the Washington Post wrote, like Robin Williams, Carrey has learned to do his side-splitting shtick in character. He's not only under control, but funnier than ever as the truth-impaired Fletcher Reede. And that, I find that we are in agreement. Yes, I believe that this is the correct assessment. And then Dragan Omtolov from rec.arts.movies.reviews wrote, after a while, Jim Carrey's character making a fool of himself is becoming annoying, and the ultra-sentimental finale doesn't ring a little bit true. So, I can see that take. It's like humor is subjective. So I can see how people might be annoyed with Jim Carrey's humor. Maybe don't go and send a reviewer to review movies of actors they don't like or find annoying. Or even better, if you are running your own review site, maybe not go to a movie has an actor that you don't particularly enjoy. That's the easy thing to do. Because I feel like this is a guy who, like he says, he's sick of the shtick. He's sick of the antics. But that's what you're going to get when you see a movie when you see particularly a comedy starring Jim Carrey. It's going to have the Jim Carrey antics. So if you don't want to see that, you should probably watch a Jim Carrey drama. Those movies don't do as well as comedies. So, or maybe see older Jim Carrey and he can't be as animated as his younger self. Maybe that's the solution. Finally, Liar Liar is, as of this recording, available on streaming. And that's it for today. Next week, a slight shift in mood. We'll check out something that's fun, something light, something like Get Shorty. You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Please contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlinkscinema.com. Please rate and review on your favorite podcast app. And if you're listening on YouTube, please like or subscribe or leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. One last time, if you like the show, then please help us grow by spreading the word about Backlink Cinema podcast. Believe me, it matters. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe. Share a movie from yesteryear with your family. Hug your loved ones. If you're gonna be anything, be outstanding.